It was a crisp autumn evening when Detective Miller first walked into the Hemlock residence. The call had come in as a missing person. Sarah Hemlock hadn't shown up for her shift at the local library, and her colleagues were worried. Her husband, Mark, greeted Miller at the door, his face a perfect mask of concern. He explained that Sarah had gone for her usual early morning run and just never came back. He'd called her phone 100 times, he said, his voice cracking just so. The house was immaculate, almost clinically clean. Not a single cushion was out of place, not a speck of dust on the gleaming hardwood floors. Miller found it odd. A woman vanishes, and the house looks like a magazine spread. Mark was the picture of a grieving husband. He showed Miller photos of them together, smiling, traveling, the perfect couple. He spoke of their plans, the cottage they were saving for, the family they wanted to start. He was charming, cooperative, and almost too helpful. Leo had come over to help Clara fix a leaky faucet. He gave Miller access to Sarah's phone records, her emails, her social media. Everything painted a picture of a happy, normal life. But a detective's gut feeling is a powerful thing, and Miller's was screaming that something was wrong. There was a coldness in Mark's eyes that didn't match his tearful words. The investigation began. The search parties found nothing. The local news ran Sarah's picture on a loop. Days turned into a week. Mark made public appeals, his voice choked with emotion, begging for his wife's safe return. He was so convincing that the community rallied around him, bringing casseroles and offering words of support. But Miller kept digging. He started interviewing Sarah's friends and family more closely. A different picture began to emerge, one that wasn't so perfect. Sarah's sister, Emily, was hesitant at first, but eventually she confided in Miller. She said Mark was controlling. He'd check Sarah's phone, question her about who she was with, and subtly isolate her from her friends. He never raised his voice, never left a mark, but he had a way of making her feel small, of chipping away at her confidence until she doubted her own sanity. Emily called it death by 1,000 cuts. Miller pulled Mark's financials. He discovered Mark had recently taken out a massive life insurance policy on Sarah. The payout was in the millions. When confronted, Mark had a ready answer. He claimed it was Sarah's idea, a responsible step for their future. It was plausible, but the timing felt chillingly convenient. The case was stalling. There was no body, no weapon, no physical evidence linking Mark to a crime. All Miller had was a growing mountain of circumstantial evidence and a gut feeling that was becoming an obsession. The public still saw Mark as the heartbroken husband, and Miller was starting to look like a detective with a personal vendetta. Then, a breakthrough. A small one, but a break nonetheless. While re-examining the pristine Hemlock home, a junior officer noticed something. In the garage, behind a stack of old paint cans, was a small, dark stain on the concrete floor. It was barely visible, and it looked like someone had tried to scrub it clean. The lab results came back a week later. The stain was blood, and the DNA matched Sarah Hemlock. When Miller brought Mark in for questioning again, his composure finally cracked. But not in the way Miller expected. He didn't confess. He got angry. He accused the police of planting evidence, of harassing him, of trying to frame an innocent man. He was so indignant, so outraged, that even Miller started to have a flicker of doubt. Was it possible they had it all wrong? The pressure was mounting. Miller was ordered to either charge Mark or drop the investigation. He had 48 hours. Desperate, he went back to the one person who seemed to know the real Mark. Sarah's sister, Emily. He sat with her for hours, going over every detail of Sarah's life, every conversation, every text message. They talked about Sarah's hobbies. She loved gardening, Emily said. She had a small private allotment on the edge of town where she grew vegetables. She called it her sanctuary, the one place Mark didn't go. It was the only place she could be herself, a light bulb went on in Miller's head. The sanctuary. They didn't need a search warrant for the public allotment. Miller and his team arrived just as the sun was setting. The plot was overgrown with weeds, a stark contrast to the neat rows in the neighboring plots. It looked like it hadn't been tended to in weeks. Miller's heart sank. Maybe it was another dead end. But then he saw it, a patch of freshly turned earth behind a small shed. It was subtle, but it was there. The team started digging. It didn't take long. They found Sarah. She had been buried in her running clothes, in the one place she thought was safe. The arrest was quiet. Mark didn't rage this time. He just sat in the interrogation room, a faint, smug smile on his face. He thought he'd committed the perfect crime. He'd cleaned the house, created an alibi, and played the part of the grieving husband flawlessly. He had everyone fooled, but he made one mistake. He underestimated Sarah. He thought he knew everything about her, controlled every aspect of her life. But he didn't know about the new security camera she had installed at her allotment. She'd told Emily she was worried about teenagers vandalizing the plots. She had set it up just 2 days before she disappeared. Miller played the footage for Mark. The video was grainy, but the images were clear. It showed Mark's car pulling up to the allotment in the dead of night. It showed him dragging a large, heavy tarp from his trunk. It showed him digging. And then it showed him walking away, wiping his hands on his pants. Mark watched the screen, his smug smile slowly melting away, replaced by the cold, empty look Miller had seen on that very first day. The mask was finally off. He had planned everything, every detail. But he couldn't control her, not completely. And in the end, it was Sarah's quiet act of defiance, her small sanctuary, that brought him to justice. The case was closed, but for Detective Miller, the image of that pristine, silent house would be a chilling reminder that sometimes the most monstrous secrets hide behind the most perfect smiles. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories.